I am incredibly excited to be joined today by Ione Skye, who made her film debut opposite Keanu Reeves in River's Edge, followed by her iconic role as Diane Court in Say Anything, an all-time favorite movie. We had the VHS tape in our house at home and would watch it all the time. She has appeared in so many other notable film and television projects, including Zodiac, Wayne's World, Fever Pitch, Arrested Development, Camping, Good Girls, Beef, and many more. In addition to acting, you probably do not know that Ione Skye is a painter who has exhibited and sold her work for 25 years. She is the author of the children's book My Yiddish Vacation, which I just got on Kindle and read before this interview, and it's adorable. And I knew a bunch of the Yiddish words already, but you don't know my Jewish side, but it's there. And she's co-host of the weekly podcast Weirder Together with her musician husband collaborator, Ben Lee. And she's the mother of two daughters. And we are here to talk about what I'm showing you, her most incredible memoir, Say Everything. Ione, thank you so much for being here.
I'm so excited to be here.
So I have so much to say to you. I don't know how we're going to keep this to an hour, but we'll try. I could talk to you endlessly about this memoir. It is so beautifully written. You're so brilliant on your movie experiences, your relationships with people, men, women, family, and all of the kind of twists and turns of love and romance. And I absolutely love how you talk about music in your book. It's throughout. It's such a good guide to the music of the time, and music is such an emotional reference for people and their memories. And I wondered if you had a playlist based on you do. Okay, good. We can
Yeah,
get
I have yeah, I
but
do.
yeah, so you speak about almost living inside the pages of a book or a movie as you're living your life. And now that Say Everything is finished and it's had this big life in the world and you've been touring with it and it's a New York Times bestseller, has the inner narrator changed for you or is she still there?
Now it's almost the opposite where I wanna get that where you feel like you're in a book. I've always been a fantasy life kind of when I was little, fantasy life girl, and then I would always have, like, a best friend where we both would kind of live as if we were just these, like, heroines in a book, like, whatever that was for us. And as a parent and now just being, like, sensible grown up, I sort of am glad that I don't only live like that, but I kinda wanna, like, do a mashup where sometimes I still feel like I'm the star of a sort of great movie in my life. But, yeah, I could get into that.
In the epilogue of your book, there's this recurring dream you share you've had of Adam Horovitz from the Beastie Boys, your first big love and husband, and it changes in these quiet but profound ways for you. And initially, when you're having this dream of him, you're asking for forgiveness and you're getting silence. And then in the end, you're just walking together and hugging and saying goodbye. And I wonder if you attribute that to the process of writing the book or what you gained from writing that maybe helped you process that?
Well, I was hoping it would help with that. And I think I don't know what it's like for everybody who writes a memoir, but you do sort of hope it helps you understand and let go of things that have been kind of stuck. And so I was hoping, like, I hope this helps me understand my parents better and my career and how my relationship to Hollywood and my marriage. And I did really have reoccurring dreams all the way through my current marriage. But luckily, my current husband is so like emotionally intelligent and confident that he understood that this was not this loss and the grieving that went on for so long was sort of predated even that marriage. It was sort of like, you know, how you recognize, oh, this is something that's just in me that I'm having a long time processing. So he knew that. And yeah, by the end of the book and even after touring it and talking about it, it has helped me see Adam for as a man and not like this perfect, wonderful, amazing person that I kind of hurt. And that was such an early core. I think people often hold on to those early, relationships or even like the classic football player who misses the days when he was the college or high school football hero. or, they just hold on to that. So I think he was such a core, wonderful, like, relationship of mine that when it ended, because we were so young, it was hard to let go of that. It, like, fixed so many things for me. So I think that's what it was about. So understanding through the book helped me, like, release some of that belief that I needed to get back to something. I even knew it wasn't him, but I just kept like, "I need to get back to a certain feeling I had." But I luckily knew that that was kinda psychological. But yeah, the book definitely helped release it.
And the book is really animated from beginning to end by your relationship, imagined and real, with your absent musician legend father, Donovan, whose abandonment of you and your brother and mother opens up kind of everything in your processing of how you relate to the world and other people. And it's so sweet by the end when you are reconciled with him and you see yourselves as two wounded poets. Can you talk a little about how you managed that relationship from childhood through to finishing this book? Because it's profound and it shapes so much of who you become friends with, the other daughters of famous musician dads, and so much of your life, really.
Yeah, I've all my big relationships have been musicians. My mother was that sort of example. I mean, she didn't have musician after musician after musician after my father, but she definitely loves musicians. So I think I had the example of my mother, and I yeah, it's been really kind of amazing. On one hand, I am more in touch with how hard that must have been for me not to have a father. Like, I kind of it was, again, sort of more of a story, and it was hard to kind of connect, like, how did that affect me having, this famous father who wasn't parenting me? It was, but as I now I'm sort of like, wow, that was really, I wished I'd had that. Like, I kind of am more in touch with that. But I think having a sense of humor, I'm kind of empathetic and I sort of understand psychology. So I sort of like to think, well, what made him that way? Like, why are some dads like that? And I sort of, that helped to understand him and having a sense of humor. And he's kind of comical. He doesn't mean to be funny, but he's a funny character because in the book, I describe how he's like, as if he and his wife were like wrapped in snow and then defrosted, and they're still from the '60s. So there's always that innate there's a funny comedy with hippies. They're just innately funny. Like, not they're not funny, but to others. So and he kind of speaks in these beautiful riddles. So it's sort of that helps him be like, delightfully, like, a funny character. But, yeah, I think, the book kinda made me almost more feel, like, sort of more in touch with that was kind of a big deal not to have a dad, like an interactive dad.
On the humor side, I was looking at your Instagram, and you have a post where you were visiting him in Ireland recently, and he's there doing the same voice you do in your book, because I've
Oh,
listened to your
yes. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
so funny, the "I do believe in fairies, I do,
I
I do."
do, I do. I know, he's amazing. Like, it's like, it just he really speaks like that. He really believes in all of that, and there's something really kind of fun about that. I don't know, it's just funny and kind of fun.
Yeah. So now I don't know if I've said this already, but I first fell in love with you and your movies with Say Anything and Gas Food Lodging. And you are so talented and you were sort of plucked at a very young age and you emancipated yourself at 15. And I'm close to you in age. And felt like I was always going to be watching you starring in movies that was what you deserved. That was where you should be. And I blame culture. I blame the independent film business, the macho, male dominated nature of it. Like, do you have you did keep working and making tons of movies and all of this, but you came roaring out of the gate in a way that I had hoped to keep seeing you. And then I felt like, where did you go?
I know. That's one thing that I still haven't cracked. Like, I wanted to understand what happened. Like, why didn't I go on this sort of more of a Winona Ryder kind of thing? And I tended to blame myself at first and think, well, I just like went on tour with the Beastie Boys and this and that, but I was always available and always took it seriously. So I don't know though, I don't know if I just had a push-pull with it that even though I'm very dutiful and showed up for all my meetings and auditions, and I always was a good worker, and I got into every job and totally I love serving the story. I love the making of movies, and then I just started doing more TV when that was getting bigger, and, like, I just love the world of it. So I don't know, it's like a head scratchy kind of thing where I don't know, because people sort of didn't they felt like I'm not like an actor type in some ways, but some like, my personality, so I thought, "Well, maybe I need to come in with a different, you know, persona or something. I'm maybe too ethereal and like eccentric." I don't know though, because then there's so many examples of actors who are like my personality. So I still don't understand exactly because I was kind of ready to work. And there were times that I did like go tour Europe and Japan and do things like that where I was MIA, but which I don't regret because it's like once in a lifetime experience to like go over the world, across the world with the Beastie Boys. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm waiting to have more understanding of why I didn't continue, like in this sort of because there were a couple years when I was writing the memoir where I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe how much I was working back to back." It was a lot.
Yeah, and in a way, what is coming through now with this incredible memoir that you've written that is so not easy to do is that maybe you've always had the personality of a writer. I mean, you say you've had this narrative voice in your head, right? So maybe you've always been this sensitive, thoughtful, quiet, observant person paying attention on a level to everything happening around you, all of the people around you, every movie set, and no one knew how to tap into that. And maybe you didn't even know to think of yourself then as the person who could be writing the scripts and directing the movies. And in a way, had this world seen that in you, then that is another career path that might have,
Right.
manifested at
I
that
mean,
time.
now it's a different now there's like, Rachel Sennett and all now it's kind of expected and maybe even more old-fashioned and unusual for someone to just be an actor. Like, then it was like, if anyone did anything other than acting, like, God forbid an actor was musical and wanted to put on an album, that was really like, "What?" And so now I think there's so many whatever double hyphenate, like, producer, writer, director, actor. But back then, I think it was easier for people to understand if you just did one thing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I also feel so happy that you've written this book because what if it can be adapted to the screen and then we get you writing, directing, acting, or finding, casting your younger self in all of these stages of your life? Wouldn't that be amazing to see now? I feel so.
Yeah. 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 I'm definitely in the early, but stages of starting to put it together to be something like a film, B show. But yeah. And yeah, that'll be fun because I've directed shorts and music videos and stuff like that, but I've always been so, waiting for a film to direct a film, and that it just seemed like this would be a no-brainer, or not a no-brainer, but the next step for that.
And we all wanna see it, I have to say. So, you're really honest and accountable about what you call serial cheating in your first marriage and, while moving through a rock and roll relationship with Anthony Kiedis and the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and, um, you know, Hollywood is a place where powerful men cheat constantly and rarely carry the same lifelong sense of guilt or shame or accountability. You've done so much in writing and therapy and conversations and improving of your relationships, as you write about in your book. And I wonder what you understand about the younger Ione and what she was actually trying to survive or express, maybe through her affairs.
Yeah, I guess I think there's 2 things. One is just was like whenever I was alone for too long, I was sort of almost like a shark, like looking for who am I gonna like attach myself to? So it was like an attachment anxiety or something. And then being young and just like open and loving like the big experience of romance and just I don't know, it's so validating, and also the thing of, like, when you do on a movie set, it's this very like, this amazing world, and you get really close, and there's funny hours, and you're creating together, so I don't think it's that uncommon to hook up with, other actor, your person. That happens so often. And just that I was young and, like, I just wanted to kinda date, and I ended up but wanted a family, like, in the beginning of the book, I think I'm making, like, a fairy house in the woods or something, and I think I realized was always trying to make these little families and, like, find my person and my people, and so it was a way to just, like, make a little marriage. Like, I love being married, and so I was always kinda wanting both, my cake and eat it too, like, have the solid relationship, but then be able to just, like, hook up if I wanted with, if whatever, if I met someone. I mean, I wasn't, like, looking for Mr. Goodbar, like, I wasn't, like, totally being with everybody, but you know what I'm saying. So I think it
Sure.
was yeah, I think like an attachment thing, like that insecurity of needing to have somebody mm, and getting like in a serious relationship probably too young. I probably should have just like been dating and being single. But yeah, it's you don't hear women, I guess, talking about it that much. It's more of a like a thing that men do or talk about
Yeah.
or whatever we know about.
Yeah, that is so true. And you married at 21 or
Yeah, 21, that's crazy. I
uh,
was even embarrassed, like, it was kind of I got this job in England, and I knew I'd be away for at least 6 months, and Adam was on tour for going on another big tour, and I think we thought, or I thought, because I don't know if he was happy we were living together, whatever, and if we got married, it would be like this, just this link that you couldn't break, and that would just
yes.
tie us together, and pretty quickly on, I was, like, having a crush, and then I don't know, I was just like, "Oh my gosh," and then just telling people I was getting married, I was like, "I know, it's too young, I know." I was like it was sort of embarrassing, but I'm still happy, I'm happy that I did it because it was, my life.
Yeah. And I think, again, you're a very responsible, accountable person. But I think that our culture, the way we look at marriage, we put so much of a burden on it. We expect it to be our emotional support and our financial and support, childcare, belonging, sense of purpose. All of that gets loaded onto a couple. And we lose a sense of community or even being a part of a larger community. And I think one of the amazing aspects of your life and what you value so much in your book is community, is creative community. I don't know if you thought about it that way.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, yeah, I think I don't know any other way. I mean, I'm kind of an isolator in a sense, but I a lot of people around, I guess. So you mean when I got married? What do you mean exactly?
It really struck me how much you loved the fact that when you were growing up and your mom had that Wilton place, that it was a place so many of your friends and people in the community and your brother's friends felt safe and wanted to
Yeah.
party and have fun. And the same with the Zappa home when you would go and hang out there and it felt like another home. And then now it feels like you and Ben have a space where, you have parties and gather creative community and uplift other artists and I think that that's really important that we have those relationships that are not just about isolating in a marriage.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And yeah, absolutely. Because it can happen so easily, especially when the kids are little. I mean, you have all their friends and stuff, which is cute. That's the fun part about having kids is having their little friends you meet. But yeah, for sure. I grew up that way with a lot of creative people around, but then this mother who was she just was like born to be a mom and kind of, just like cook and make sure just take care of us. Like make sure we had everything we needed and was very maternal, but she also loved people around. So
So
many
nice.
gay men friends and just single moms and just yeah, it was really, really, really nice. There was a golden era, Wilton Place, my first bad stepfather, that was just like a golden period that people still totally fondly remember.
Yeah. That's actually such a funny picture in your book is the family photo. This
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, my second stepfather, it's hilarious because we had photographer this is sort of how what helped my career. It was funny. I mean, I wasn't looking to have an acting career, consciously looking for it or actively looking for it, but my mom had photographer friends, and this one friend, Johnny Rosa, who's still a friend, he would just take pictures, use our living room because it was a big living room and whatever, he would practice, and so he took that family portrait, and it just, like it's so insane looking. It's so '80s, but, like, insane. But, yeah, we
It
look like I don't know what the look was, I guess. It just, like, a model shot of the whole family. It's just bizarre.
yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I've sort of thought about in the context of you become immortalized as this dream girl, Diane Court, in Cameron Crowe's legendary indie Say Anything during the George H.W. Bush family values moment, right? And then you're Trudy in Allison Anders' Gas Food Lodging, which is another unforgettable landmark indie. It's working class, feminist, and Clinton is in power. And I wonder if you've ever thought about that, these 2 movies that were so big side by side and what it meant against I feel like politically our country has been basically conservative all of our lives. Like despite Clinton and Obama blips, culturally we've always been pretty conservative. There's a little bit of a movement forward, but this and the worlds that you grew up in also feel much more bohemian and liberal and progressive and in cool ways. But how were you processing all of that, or how do you look at that now?
But, yeah, it's, fascinating to me that my mom really, like, just married be taken care of because she also didn't really she came from the '60s, and I always thought people from the '60s, the women were like, free or whatever. But it wasn't until women's lib in the '70s that that really happened. And she very much was like, you marry a nice man and you have a family and no career. And also just the way my grandparents were like, they weren't immigrants, but they were like from Eastern European, in New York. And it was just still like that kind of yeah, you just figure it out and hopefully your daughter gets married and they like, have a good life. But yeah, so I kind of had that in me, I think somewhere that funny thing where I worked at a young age, which was amazing. Not only because I'm such a kind of bassy, kind of poetic figure, and I can't believe I have supported myself. It's a miracle because you know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm a hard worker, but I'm spaced out kind of character. But also having that thing, so I think I thought I need to kinda get married, and I still kinda have that old-fashioned male-female thing in a weird way. And yeah, I agree, I think America's very conservative. I do, I agree, and despite the bohemian thing, I think that's still, like, in it's behind everything, even if it looks bohemian and free. That's why I think you have such extremes, like communes or, whatever, like people just trying to make it and have a house and a car. So I don't know, I just don't I agree with you. I think it can look bohemian, but everybody's kind of in the line.
Yeah. Actually, I wonder now that you're a mother of a daughter in Australia and you're in this daughter's room right now, are you feeling like Australia's a little more progressive and feminist? Like they actually had a first female prime minister, even if she took total shit and went down. What is your experience of Australia?
Yeah, well, it's a mix where Australian women are really, like, strong. They're just, like their personalities, it's like not every woman here is Australian, obviously, it's a real melting pot. But the ones that maybe came from, England or whatever, they're very strong and friendly and sort of like, dames or something or broads or something strong. It's a little old-fashioned, the older Australian men are like from another like the 1950s, like, would call you darling, like things like that. Like there's an old-fashionedness and Australians are follow rules, but it's like socialized medicine. It's really like called the lucky country in a weird way because it's kind of amazing when you live with socialized medicine, like, to realize how just like humane and it makes total sense it is, and how it's not freaky or like, socialist or any whatever. It's just like so nice. So there's a sense that the government will kind of take care of you, but it's sort of rule following. Yeah, but very like Sydney's like the gayest, like it's so, being a gay man, like it's just like nothing, or a gay woman, it's like no big deal, not at all, like at all. So these things are really great. But there's of course conservative people as well, but it's like it runs really well. And as far as women, yeah, it's an interesting thing where they're very strong. Yeah, a lot of countries. India had a prime minister. England, like there's so many countries that have women. It's so weird. America's like, what's going on? Why not?
I totally agree. Yeah, it feels like you're in a lucky country too, because if World War III really breaks out, you're not gonna get necessarily bombed or depends, but maybe you
Right?
won't
I know.
maybe
I
you
know
won't
it's
be
weird
blown.
that it's very we're near it's very Asian here, but I don't know. It's always interesting
Yeah,
how Australia is with China and stuff like that, but we'll
exactly.
see. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's crazy in the US right now with Trump, so that's a whole depressing.
Yeah. I mean, we are not nonstop. I think the world is watching, and we, of course, Ben and I, like the news. Sometimes I have to take a break because I'll just
Yeah,
like it's 24/7 listening to every single podcast, news, news, news. But
right.
once in a while, I've got to throw in some comedy podcasts in there and do other things to try to just not get obsessed.
Yes. Actually, I wonder when you were thinking about writing this memoir, was there a first spark or was there a first song or a movie or what prompted you to finally sit down and write it?
I think there was a bit of interest, like, in my relationship with Anthony Kiedis and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. There was sort of like, I don't know, like, there was something that made actually Ben say, "I think people would be interested in this." And it's just like it was a throwaway to my agent. I was sort of like, I don't know, like a memoir, or is it too soon? Da, da, da. And he was like, "Oh, I have a friend who's an agent." And then all of a sudden it just was like, before I could like rub my eyes, I like, yes, yes, we want it. Da, 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 da. And I was like, wow, okay. So then I had to kind of catch up. And then I went into, wow, okay, so what are really good memoirs? Like I read, Patti Smith, Just Kids, and then I was rereading Postcards from the Edge, and I just was sort of like trying then to take in all of the great ways people have written about themselves or films, those kinds of things, to try to just think, how can this be good? Not I won't ever be Carrie Fisher, but I want to absorb all these things.
I love Carrie Fisher. Love her, but and her writing, but you're really, really excellent. You are.
Thank you.
You're right.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
then I just like dug into it, and yeah, then I wrote a proposal, which took almost a year. It takes a long time. I mean, I don't know if
Yeah.
everybody takes that long. And then a funny thing happened, that the proposal was leaked and it was in the page 6 in the New York Post, which I was sort of freaked out about, but then it made a bidding war and all that stuff. But the nice thing about the being approached by all the publishers is it wasn't just a cash grab, because also I'm not, Matthew Perry, Britney Spears, like it wasn't a guaranteed, I mean, on one hand, cynically, my stepfather said, well, they're going to want your book because it's just dollar signs for them. But these pitches they were giving me to take the book, one woman was like, it's a call to arms for women. Like people were digging it, or in a way that was genuine. So sure, it's a business, but that was really one of the best weeks of my life, having these meetings with all the publishers, because it was so validating. I'd never had validation for writing before. My story, and I was walking on air, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. Like I just felt so good. And then it was one of the best experiences, almost like 3 years. And then I had a playlist to write to, and then
Uh,
later I have so there's 2. One is all the music, because, when you're writing, you don't want too many, you don't want lyrics that you're gonna be, like, distracted. So,
yeah.
you have to have those songs that, like, create the mood where you're like, this is like a movie, and you're getting that zone. And then a playlist I put together that were just a lot of songs that were mentioned in the book. So there's
The
like 2.
songs are so good. I was literally part of the reason, because I listened on audio, so part of the reason I got the hard copy was because I was like, "Maybe I'll just go through and make a playlist," and then I said to Ted, "I'm gonna do a totally different kind of interview where I just play the song and then see what it brings up for Ione," and he was like, "You can't do that. We don't have the rights to any of the songs. You can't."
No, I was like, I had a shock with that with podcasts, like,
Well,
I was, like, asking Ben, like, "Can you use songs on podcasts?" He's like, "Maybe, like, 4 seconds, but not really," and I was like, "Really?"
yeah.
Like, I didn't know it.
Such a bummer. But maybe we could do a 4-second per song version where we go through. It's such a good playlist. And I do think that you'll make a great director of the feature or the series version because you have this musical connection and your ear and your taste and all of that. I think it makes
Oh,
good
thank
directing.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So it's interesting you mentioned the Anthony Kiedis spark because in your epilogue, I thought there was a really powerful moment where your older daughter, Kate, with David Netto, as you know, I hope that you're gonna hold him accountable or at least, not just write about it in a fantasy way because you were 16 and he was 24 and uh, you were too young.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I do think he felt a responsibility and kinda guilty, and there was a protectiveness he did have, but you're still even though 24 is young, it's still irresponsible, and also yeah, I just think that it's not cool. Like, I do agree that that's not really appropriate on many levels, and just that you're sort of living with a teenager and he even if you're taking care of them or something, I don't know, the exposure to all those things, like, if he was a different person, he would have thought, "This is too much for a 16-year-old to see," regardless of the drug stuff, just that the 24-year-old's life is gonna be different, and to be living with a teenager, like, that they should still be in school or
Yeah,
whatever, you know what I mean? Doing
yeah.
different things or experimenting, but in the way that 16-year-olds experiment. So for sure, not cutting that off. Like, sure, what if you end up falling in love for some reason? Then you're like, okay, wait, but this is a bit weird. Yeah. And the fact that he's still kind of going younger, just like I Google every once in a while, like, why do men want to be with younger women? Like, I'm sort of curious about the psychology. Like, don't men want to be interesting conversations, not that teenagers can't or young women can't, but don't they wanna, like, have a different type of relationship where you're with someone who's, like, in a different stage of their life? Like, I'm sorta curious what and then when I read it, I'm like, "Yeah, I get that, I see the psychology, I'm now understanding what would make that," and then I forget, and I'm like, "I don't remember, why do they do that?"
It's gotta be a lot about control, right? Like, they want control and, like a follower in a way, someone like you say in the book, some, friend of yours observed you were walking a few steps behind Anthony when you were going to a show or whatever,
Yes.
and you didn't even notice it, and you were like, "Oh my god, yeah."
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there's that whole fantasy anyway, we that's a longer that's an interesting conversation actually to get into sometime. Another conversation.
Okay.
But it must be hard actually if you think about your book and you've navigated this really interesting career path and family and social life and creative community and art that you're putting out in the world. And I think that for Gen Z women right now, they're kind of like stuck between these really slightly ugly options of what looks like bad lean in girl boss gone wrong, like, Anna Wintour spoofing herself at the Oscars for the next installment of that movie that's gonna come out, and or trad wife, which is like, stay at home and have babies and cook, and nothing wrong with having babies and cooking, but stay at home and maybe don't vote. Like, now we're here in this country being threatened
Oh,
with this. and this idea that women are going to lose the vote. We've lost Roe v. Wade. We've lost so much ground. And so, yeah, I think it is great that, and maybe it's having your daughters in your life, but were you kind of conscious of the unique path you've carved through those minefields?
I know. Yeah, I think growing up with having an older dynamic brother, like I was me and my brother, and it sort of makes sense why I would follow Anthony or then follow the Beastie Boys around. Like I was this little quiet, poetic little girl. And I had this like very go get 'em. My brother was starting active, produced like so young. He was just like hit the ground running with Hollywood and figured it out and was connected. All this, he just figured it out, and it was so fun to follow him around and just be like the little teen following him around. So on one hand, I have that, but it's also been amazing that I am able to do so much stuff and feel like I can. Like I didn't have that thing of like, no, you're not, you can't do this. I don't know if it's just that I'm so innately like creative and I just had to do it. But like now with Ben, for example, he loves creative people. So I'm just around creative people again. People but he really wants to get things done. He just doesn't want to like sit and play guitar in a room. He wants to like produce and get things going and all of that. So I think on one hand, I feel like I'm still that kid just following him around and doing my thing just because it's around, but I must know that that's just what I wanna do. I want to do
Right.
things, and I want things to come out in the world that are creative and stuff like that. The trad wife thing is it's like Ballerina Farm, like, she's really wealthy from her husband, and it's almost like you have to do that. You have to be hooked up financially, so that's like that fantasy sounds I love the Little House on the Prairie. Love it, but I think you
Yeah.
need money to do that. So it's just
Yeah.
not, but yeah, I think what I'm saying is having younger creative people around who innately just don't in that, like a lot of women, some women and stuff, it's a good example for me. So I think I just see it and I just push myself to do it myself and not get too stuck.
Yeah.
How am I going to keep creative and keep working as I get older?
Yeah. Well, you're incredibly humble because you have put out tremendous amounts of really amazing, amazing work. And yeah, and no offense at all to David Netto, but your description of that almost marriage is so funny and so astute, actually. You had good instincts about what you needed to do to protect yourself from making the wrong move there. And almost I wonder if does some of that come from because I feel in my family too, I can recognize patterns from my grandmother to actually, my grandmother was an actress in Hollywood, and so my mother was born here and then fled, and then 'cause there was a scandal, and she ended up marrying someone like a David Netto, who that family, very old money, titled British aristocracy, and hiding for a while and having 4 kids. But it was a reaction to her mother, and then my family my setup, my choices have been informed by hers and my grandmother's. So, I think you're very sharp in analyzing and understanding family patterns. And did that precede writing the book, or was that always somewhat in the back of your mind?
Yeah, firstly, yeah, I've almost forgot your family. That's an incredible. I hope you've told the story. I'm sure
Talk
people
about
want
that.
you
We'll
to
talk
tell all
about
this stories
that.
another time, but that's fascinating. Yeah, amazing. Yes, I've always been analytical. I mean, I don't know if I believe in star signs, like astrology, but like Virgos they analyze, and I don't know. I just innately had that analytical kind of brain about breaking down. I was just interested in it. So I think I was very interested in why my mother was the way she was, and then I was very close to my grandparents, so I would sort of look at my grandmother and why she was the way like what you just said. So
Yeah,
I think I just was interested in it, and I had my brain just, is wired to understand psychology to a certain extent. Like, I find it
yeah.
interesting. Always.
Actually,
I mean, not since I was 6, but since probably teen years or something. And then being in the 90s, like, I don't know, I guess there's the self-help books, but then I do love, like, my Jungian therapy phase, and I don't know, it's just an interest of mine.
Yeah, and I love that you've embraced your Jewish roots too in the Yiddish vacation and the grandparents' story, and because I was feeling like, we're reading the preppy handbook and being pushed towards a different waspy world a lot, or even just romanticizing it, and you
Well,
have,
yeah.
you know
I'm the
so
classic, like, who did Ralph Lauren?
yeah.
Ralph Lauren. Yeah, he's Jewish, and I think
Let's
that,
do
like,
it.
wanting it's sort of, like, sad on one hand because I think it's trying to get away from something that you perceive
Yeah,
as, back then, for sure, like, yeah, just the Jewish thing of being I mean, I didn't grow up religiously or in, like, a total Jewish community, but still, like, desire to be preppy or whatever. So I think that was, yeah, huge for me.
okay. So the right that the harder test in a relationship isn't staying faithful, it's staying open-hearted when things get tough. Is that still kinda how you look at it? And, you've been with Ben a long time, and you guys have this Weirder Together production company and podcast and creative community, and is this kind of your sense of intimacy, has it evolved through being in the relationship or writing the book or
Yeah, writing the book was great because he was, just supportive but not too involved. I wanted him to read it all the time and he was like, I want you to have your own like experience with it. Yeah, I think it's like at the end of the day it's sort of I have the same instincts, the same things that I'm working on. Like I'm very defensive and very sensitive and these things still come up like every other week or something. We'll have a little thing that but, as you go on in the relationship, you understand each other more and, just trying to kind of like work on the same things. So I guess that's, I don't know if that's in the open-hearted category, but I've been
Yeah,
very lucky to like, I don't know, it's a miracle to me that I'm like in a long-term relationship that's like dynamic and really good. But probably for me, it helped having so many, not bad, but whirling roller coaster big relationships. So then by this time I was kind of like ready for something different in a way. But yeah, it's still marvel that we're like, I don't know, I think we like admire each other a lot and it's funny, I'll talk about not trad wife, this is more like old-fashioned 1950s or 70s marriage, but those things of like, don't forget to go on a date together, and like all these like have some quality time. Like I always thought lives in a magazine reading about what to do for keep your marriage alive. Now I'm like, oh yeah, all that stuff like actually. So I'll like meet him on tour and he'll tour these little cute towns and we'll have just like 1 night or 2 nights, just the 2 of us, and I'm like, "Wow, that really helps our marriage." It's like, at the end of the day, these things, like, make sense.
totally. Ted is about to come on tour with me and this university tour we're doing with our film, and yeah, it's a nice, fun, new experience to have
Yes,
together, make new
totally.
memories.
Yes, yes.
So, can you share what you're working on right now? What does your day look like? You'll be doing your podcast, you'll be painting.
So for the first time, I have a painting studio because my house, I still have it in LA, has this amazing, like, big room that sort of must have been a big garage that was converted into it's just almost like it was perfect to paint in or play music in or whatever Ben would be doing. But so we have a place now in this really cool part of town that's sort of like warehouses, like what New York might have been in the 80s for artists, these industrial buildings. And we like fixed up this one, we're renting it, and it's just like a dreamy painting place. So we have that, and it also has room for like our podcast. So we do that. So I'm painting, I'm doing like a series, and there's great galleries here. So I might do a show at one of the galleries if this series comes together. And then we're just like developing stuff in Australia because it's sort of like Canada, the way it works here, they pay for the government, like,
Oh,
subsidizes a lot. So there's that side, and I'm just still parenting a teenager and getting her to school, make sure she goes to school every day. But yeah, it's like that, and I'm waiting to hear about this kind of acting job, which I don't know if it's gonna happen or not. That film's here.
ooh.
So yeah, it's good. It's like I am like you said before. I'm humble, and it's maybe it's humility, but also it's kind of like it's sort of I need to realize I'm doing like the other day I was like, am I working? Am I doing enough? And Ben was like, yeah, yeah, you are. So and also the beginning stages of turning the memoir into something. So those things, but it feels some days I feel like I'm not working a lot, but I am.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. This was really, really fun. And good luck with everything you're doing.
Thank you so much. So good to talk to you.